Whack!
Is there a duck in here?
What's good, guys? It's Alissa. If you're new here, hello. First things first, y'all know I gotta get the formalities out of the way. You can follow me on TikTok, Instagram, Blue Sky. All that information is in my description box down below. I do have multiple YouTube channels. I've been in a little bit of a content rut, but I haven't been gone. I actually have been uploading on my Sims channel, which currently hit 1K subscribers as of yesterday. Thank you guys so much. If you would like to see some Sims content from me, go ahead and subscribe to that channel over there. I have been in a bit of a content rut, but it definitely helped once I got a gaming laptop that was actually recommended to me by a fellow creator, Ella Pastoral. Thank you so much. That definitely helped me continue to be creative, even when I didn't feel like uploading on this channel. But anyway, in today's video, we will be discussing the constant chase for the fountain of youth and the misconceived shallowness of teen culture in Daria Season 3, Episode 6, titled The Lost Girls. The episode starts at Lawndale High when Daria is abruptly pulled away from her best friend Jane by her English teacher and self-proclaimed writing mentor, Mr. O'Neill. Now, Mr. O'Neill tells Daria that there's an important person on the phone waiting to speak to her in the teacher's lounge.
I'll tell you who we're calling. It's Val! You know, the Val.
Daria is unmoved by this news, but soon puts two and two together that Mr. O'Neill is talking about Val, the editor of teen magazine, Val. And as I was scripting this video, of course you gotta do your research on the things that you talk about before you talk about them. I learned that this episode is actually a parody for the 90s teen magazine, Jane. The editor, Val, is loosely based on someone named Jane Pratt, who was the creator and editor of Jane magazine in the 90s. The more you know. Mr. O'Neill says that the team over at Val was so impressed with Daria's paper, My So-Called Angst, that she won the Spend the Day with Val contest. Now this causes a little bit of confusion because Daria didn't submit her paper to Val, but she learns that without her consent, Mr. O'Neill submitted her paper on her behalf. Now, Mr. O'Neill is just Daria's English teacher, and he seems to have the best intentions with wanting his students to succeed. And we do notice as we watch the show that he does favor Daria over his other students, especially when it pertains to Daria's literary skills. However, it's a recurring thing that he lacks boundaries and constantly oversteps the teacher-student dynamic, putting himself under the impression that his students are his friends.
We won, Daria. We won!
Lawsuit.
Sorry.
And Daria is less than excited for this opportunity because one, she didn't submit this paper, and two, she simply just thinks Val is stupid.
I have your star writer right here, and she is dying to talk to you.
Hello? Yes. No. It just isn't. I guess I can't stop you. See you then. Bye.
Now, Val's visit to Lawndale High is supposed to be under wraps, but their greedy and shady supervillainesque principal, Miss Lee, turns Val's visit into this huge spectacle. Back home, even Daria's family is acting brand new after they find out that Val will be visiting them for dinner. Daria's dad makes one of his infamous bad dinner recipes, and it's so funny to me because people always use infamous when they actually mean famous. The prefix "in" means not, so "in" is not famous or famous for something bad. So infamous means famous for something bad. And people always use infamous to say that somebody's like famous for something good. Anyway, that always bothers me. Jake makes it a point to experiment every week or so with a new dinner recipe, from Thai peanut sauce to everything but the kitchen sink soup. And this night, Jake decides to make a new dinner recipe, spaghetti sauce with cheese puffs, which is actually a recipe that he found in Val magazine. This alone made me realize that Val magazine might actually be a sham. Cheese puffs were probably all the rage at this time, and this is what all the kids were eating, so Val magazine decided to come up with a recipe to relate to the kids. And the cheese puff spaghetti is so reminiscent of that hot Cheeto craze that we went through, where all the media outlets all of a sudden decided that hot Cheetos was the popular thing amongst the kids, and there were all these recipes incorporating hot Cheetos and hot Cheeto dust, and they weren't necessarily even about pleasing your taste buds. It was more spectacle to get clicks to their website or publications. Daria also found it weird that her mom Helen wants them to eat in the dining room, which she points out they never do. The only time I personally remember them eating in the dining room was one episode, and that was 1J at a time, and I think that's when Daria invited Tom over for dinner. When Val finally arrives to the Morgendorffer's residence, they're met with a possibly middle-aged woman who is dressed like Tiffany from the Fashion Club. Derogatory. Also, why the hell was she standing like this at the door? Was she like waiting for the studio audience to stop clapping? She's a very self-absorbed woman, but we will get into that as we go on. And it's also here that we immediately see that Val is a fraud. The content of her magazine probably comes from the fact that she's trying to keep up with what's current and remain hip. I'm sure some of you have seen The Substance, and I hope you're booking that therapy session. But anyway, once you start to age out of a specific field, the higher ups will actively look for your replacement. So Val is going through these extensive measures to try to stay current with the latest fashions and lingo of the kids to be perceived as youthful. And I actually talked about this on the video that I did on Mies Nation. Everything has its origins. Black kids use words in text a certain way. At first, it's seen as ignorant by those who are not in those communities because they're racist. But then non-Black onlookers begin to use these terms and phrases ironically, but then become seriously. Then these phrases and ebonics make their way into popular culture. Then these companies and corporations find ways to capitalize off of it. And in this case, it becomes co-opted by people who are not only out of touch, but don't even know how to use these terms properly. So it ends up sounding like this.
Hi, girlfriend. I am like beyond psyched. This is gonna be too much fun. Are you just so jiggy with this?
Then the usual cycle of Black people just being Black people, non-Black people studying them and adopting their culture and language, overusing it to a point where they now claim it as uncool, then going back to their roots happens. To be more specific, a lot of these slang words or, the cool Twitter lingo that people use these days actually originated from ballroom culture. So slay, 8 down, 10s across the boards, give her 10s, all that stuff. And these days the word pookie has become co-opted and I actually hate it because if a non-Black person calls me pookie, I just might crash out. Val also constantly speaks in third person as if everyone knows who she is and admires her.
And that's how I started Val. We're young but wise, edgy but full of heart. Like me, Val.
And a lot of what Val says, she seems to be the only one even understanding what is coming out of her mouth.
Edgy is going right up to the edge of the cliff and being able to see all the way down and dancing anyway.
What the hell does that mean?
After a strange dinner the night before, it's now time for Daria to spend her day with Val. And I can only imagine that Daria is not really anticipating this after how annoying dinner was the night before. Again, this whole visit was supposed to be under wraps, remember that. But Principal Lee announced a last-minute school spirit day where everyone wears the school colors, blue and yellow. Also, somehow Daria and Val are met with press when they make it to the front of the school. Val is also acting oblivious to the stares and the onlookers of the crowd, speculating with Daria if all the stares are for her.
Do you think all those people are there to see me?
That would be interesting since no one knows you're here.
This definitely gives kid who peaks in high school and then comes back to school after graduation. Oh my gosh, is Val Tommy Sherman? Come to find out after Val tells the press no cameras, we find out that it was actually Val's office who alerted the press to meet her at Lawndale.
I don't know how you found out about this, but please, no cameras.
But your office called to say you'd be here.
Darn it, they must have misunderstood my no publicity edict. That is so whack.
A lot of Val's persona is very disingenuous. She's really a self-centered person who acts oblivious to the fact that her main goals with this visit to Lawndale is to further her own fame and career through staying in the know with the youth.
Being famous can be such a spiraling down drag. I never wanted to give up my privacy.
Sure, Val. That would be why you named your magazine Val.
As the bell rings, we can already tell that Val is uninterested in actually learning about Daria. She's slowly learning that Daria doesn't surround herself with the popular kids at school, and even worse, in Val's case, Daria isn't popular, which is, I think, her whole point in visiting these schools, to get an inside look on popular youth culture. Val constantly cuts Daria off mid-sentence and even ignores what she's saying most of the time. Her neck is on a constant swivel, scouting out who looks like they can be of any use to her.
So I think our strategy should be basically we just hang and I'll come up with some ear candy and you'll write about your day with me, Val, and I'll write about Val's day with you, and we'll really get at the hidden heart of high school. Are you with?
The visit is mostly for the benefit of Val. She's there to study and soak up the youth culture like Rogue from X-Men. Val turns youth culture into character without even realizing it, because to her, this is what teens look and sound like. At least the cool ones. When Val notices that all the students are wearing school colors, she gets upset at Daria for not informing her that it was school spirit day. I guess you can never be too old to feel like you need to fit in, but I guess check your Instagram feed. But Daria is non-conforming. Just because everybody else is doing something, Daria isn't going to be peer pressured into following those trends.
I want to fit in while I'm here.
Therein lies the difference between us.
Daria isn't one of the cool kids at school, but in my opinion, like I've said before, Daria actually is popular. She's a brain, but she's popular. But she's not cool. But since Daria is in such close proximity to Val today, the cool kids are pretending that they've always been friends with Daria, or always have been kind to her, and always been including Daria in everything, which is of course a facade. For example, Brittany comes up to Daria pretending that they are just the best of friends. But Daria sees right through this act and does an Uno reverse on her, asking if she can join the cheer team.
Oh, gee, Brittany, I'm glad I ran into you. I've decided to try out for the cheerleading squad. Would you mind sponsoring me?
Sure thing, Daria.
Nope, they're not acting differently at all.
And as much as Val is pretending that she's unfazed, that no one is acknowledging her presence, which I'm sure all the students were instructed to do by Principal Lee, she couldn't help but call attention to herself, confessing who she really is.
She's, a friend.
Oh, Daria, we might as well give it up. I'm just too recognizable. Okay, it's me, Val. Yes, the Val, as in Val.
But what Val doesn't realize is that she's famous for her status. She's become delusional in thinking that she's famous for her youth and her coolness. To everyone else, Val literally looks her age. And not only that, they also think that she's kind of weird for the lingo that she uses and her fashion choices.
Was she a little old for that outfit?
She's a little old for that brain.
And unfortunately, Val believes that she looks younger than her age. I know y'all remember that TikTok trend with that girl that was like, millennials look younger than who?
Millennials look younger than who?
And then all those millennials were flocking to show that they looked younger than a clearly like 18 or 19-year-old.
Pretty good for a 28-year-old, huh?
28?
I know. People still think I'm like 16.
And I said this before, teens look like teens. And I know a lot of people, were saying, they're 30 and, they don't really have height, or they just have chronic baby face. I'm sorry, that was mean. But people mistake them for being much younger than what they are. Yes, things can be true at once, but I guess in that video, I was just trying to protect the youth in the sense of people saying that younger people can look older. There's really no excuse for that. Older people can definitely look younger, but it's just no excuse to say that a younger person looks older, especially if you're being creepy and weird. So I was just trying to make that a blanket statement because it's not an excuse for any creepy, weird behavior. Anyway, yeah, that trend was absolutely hilarious because those people were really being delusional, because I'm like, something about a millennial, they look like millennials. And I know I'm covering Daria and there's a lot of millennials that watch these videos, and it's not a bad thing. The weird thing comes from being so adamant on proving that you look younger than a clearly 18-year-old. And like I said in my previous video, you shouldn't want to look like an 18 or 19-year-old because they look like kids, It's fine with aging and getting older. There's nothing wrong with it. That's all. But anyway, as the school day comes to a close, Daria's patient starts to wear thin with Val. Val gets a call from someone named Noni, who lets her know that Val's boy toy cheated and is having a potential baby with someone named Gwenny. Uh-oh. Val starts having what seems to be a mental slip, chanting her name to herself over and over in a way to, I'm assuming, calm herself down. It was very scary.
In my years as an educator,
Val, as in Val. I am Val, as in Val.
Can I get you some water?
But unable to get a grip, Val steps out to curse her now ex out over the phone, revealing that he might be a teen. Now this part, I'll probably put the clip in so you guys can interpret it for yourself, but I interpret it in this way. He might be a teen. She's claiming that she made him and can unmake him.
When Drew and I go out clubbing, I'm always the one who gets carded.
These clubs, are they very, very dark?
Making it apparent that there are some power imbalances in this relation dynamic that, I was about to say Jane, that Val has with this ex. Weird.
How do you think it happened, you ungrateful teen heartthrob cheeseball? You used me to get into Val magazine. I made you and I can unmake you. You are neither hot nor a hunk, you soon-to-be has-been.
And Daria herself even believes that Val is taking advantage of teens at such a susceptible point in their lives. Val portrays herself as the voice of the youth, but is so far detached from a normal teenager's lifestyle, which is the craziest thing about it. Not only by her age, but literally her status and her lifestyle. After getting dumped, Val vows that she's done dating famous guys and is gonna stick to fashion designers and studio heads, because that's definitely the average teen's dating pool.
Since I'm in town, I might as well check out the Grand Regency Hotel. It's 4 stars.
In town? That hotel is an hour away.
My driver doesn't mind.
And without even realizing that what she just said was weird as hell, Val is recalling the argument that she had to Daria and says, basically bragging to her ex that she's not some ordinary teen loser. She's Val. Val is completely lost in her own delusion that she speaks of herself as if she's a part of the youth culture that she writes about, and believes that the powers that be are working against her for that reason. It's also apparent that Val is not a girl's girl. As soon as she finds out that her ex was entertaining someone younger than her, she's immediately triggered by this and starts calling the woman a slut and a nobody.
It isn't every day your boyfriend dumps you for a starlet.
I was not dumped, and I'm much more famous than that pathetic B-list pseudo-celebrity. Not that the suits who control the airwaves would know. Sometimes I feel like the whole adult world is against youth culture.
While it is possible for someone in their early 20s or even teens to have the success that Val has, due to Val being so seasoned in the industry, she's able to stay in these rooms due to her experience.
How can I not appeal to their demographic? They are so whack. I am their demographic. They wouldn't know edgy if it bit them in the butt.
So it's kind of like she's creating this false ignorance or naivete with her youth, but when it's convenient, then she uses that experience to her advantage. Like she said, she made her ex and she can unmake him, and I'll get into that. Pretty much, Val enjoys being the gatekeeper of youth culture and threatens anyone who tries to take her spot. This whole spend the day with Val thing is actually supposed to be a collaborative effort, with Val doing a piece on Daria and Daria doing a piece on Val. But Val just wants Daria to take note of everything she's saying, yet nothing that Val has said is anything of substance or value that's worth noting down for an article.
Collaborating is hard, don't you think?
How would I know?
But Val's persona starts to slip when Daria finally tells her how she really feels about her magazine. Daria believes that Val is aiding the detriment of teen self-esteem and the pressures to reach unhealthy standards.
What do you mean pushing yourself as some kind of role model when all you care about is how you look and what celebrities you know? Aren't teenage girls screwed up enough without you foisting your shallow values on them and making their lousy self-images even worse?
No, I am a role model. I'm in touch with the teen within.
Why don't you get in touch with the 30-something without? Your readers aren't going to be teenagers forever, unlike you. A real role model would be teaching them stuff they can use.
30-something.
And per usual, Val is only fixated on the fact that Daria said she looked like she was 30-something. And most of all, is offended that someone as unpopular and uncool as Daria has the audacity to even call her out on anything about herself. Val liked Daria's edginess when she thought that Daria was popular, because only cool kids read Val magazine, which makes me curious because apparently Mr. O'Neill also reads Val magazine. Principal Lee is very aware of what Val magazine is, and anyway, because Val believes that only the cool kids read Val, Daria's edginess is now seen as otherness and pessimistic.
Edgy occurs when middle-brow, middle-aged profiteers are looking to suck the energy, not to mention spending money, out of the quote-unquote youth culture. So they come up with this fake concept of seeming to be dangerous when every move they make is the result of market research and a corporate master plan.
And this is a tangent, but around the time texting and the internet were becoming popular, it was kind of a recurring joke how teens would shorten everything and make them an acronym, like using LOL and TTYL, and at the time it was seen as ridiculous by adults. But now things like that have become normalized, with even my own dad, who just got an iPhone a couple years ago and is now on social media, text me in acronyms, and I'm like, I'm in a twilight zone. But anyway, I was saying all this to say, one thing I noticed when I used to work 9-to-5 jobs, because if you don't know, I do this full time. What the hell was management's obsession with making every single thing an acronym? If it was like a script that you had to learn for calls. It was like the process was shortened into this acronym that they thought was cool, or, you know, morals and the qualities that we had to follow as the company was shortened into this weird acronym that didn't even make sense and didn't even roll off the tongue. And it was just like, I would rather learn the actual process than have to learn the process and you're quizzing me on this acronym that I have to remember of the process. It was just too much. But what I found even funnier, because in one of the last jobs I had, I was also one of the younger people when I was working there. This was a few years ago, so I was in my early 20s. We would be in the chat and I would be using acronyms. And I remember I used IDEK, and we were on Zoom or Microsoft Teams, and they were like, what does that mean? Alissa, tell us what that means. I was like, I don't even know. They were like, oh my God. I was literally like short circuiting, like, what does that mean? So it's like, y'all be trying to come up with all these cool acronyms to be so hip. But y'all don't even know what IDEK means. I was like, I was like, okay. But it kind of puts a magnifying glass on who's actually creating these phrases, and it's not your peers. I just find it so funny because these marketing teams on these social media teams are single-handedly keeping that feeling when memes alive. Like, I don't know who uses that anymore, but the only place I see that is literally on like companies' marketing teams Instagrams. It's like, I don't know who's still using that. That's such work lingo. And if you were in the episode community like I was, and I actually do want to do an episode retrospective, kind of talking to the people that used to be in the community with me, because y'all, it got deep and it was a lot of drama, and I want to cover it. But anyway, not important. Y'all, episode used to be so out of touch. The memes would be so cringe, and I feel like we can say that with a lot of things. And let me know if you have any examples of this, because I don't want to feel like I'm talking out my ass or going crazy. But anyway, let's get back to it. It was only a matter of time before we finally saw who Val really was, if it wasn't obvious from the material in her actual magazine.
You know, I came here to do an article on a smart girl who's cool, because smart is cool, but cool is cool too, and smart that doesn't get cool isn't so smart, is it? You know, deep down, you're nothing but
a brain.
You almost made me say it.
When sitting in on Mr. O'Neill's class, you can see that Val becomes irritable with the lesson and just wants to speed to the part where the students get to ask her questions with her sitting in the front of the room. But when Jody asks Val a valid question, calling her out on the one-dimensional content of her magazine, Val simply didn't have the range to even answer the question.
Don't you think Val could try harder to present a multicultural, multi-ethnic, less brain-dead point of view to enlighten girls instead of just marketing to them?
Jody, you've got great sassy energy. Now let me turn it back on you. Pea green nail polish, edgy or icky?
And the craziest thing is, upon meeting Daria, she gave her a nasty look, assuming that Quinn was Daria, which was the same look of disgust that she actually gave Jane when she saw her walking past in the hallway. Val's intention of visiting Lawndale High was not to get an authentic student experience from a regular student's perspective. She wanted to scope out the cool people and take the information that she gathered to gain profit.
Hi, Val. These are my fellow fashion club members.
Finally, some popular people. Just kidding, Dar.
And after Daria and Val's tiff, Val goes back to New York writing an article on today's underground bummer culture, with Daria being the face of the movement, apparently.
Recently, I spent an entire day hanging out with a disturbing girl I shall refer to only as D. Unenthusiastic, unpopular, cynical D just doesn't understand how great it is to be a teen. In fact, she may be the anti-teen.
Again, a prime example of Val abusing her power as a popular, famous magazine editor to humble or bring somebody down a peg that dared come after her, especially if she views them as less than. And what Val fails to realize, which is what Jody called her out on, is that being a teen comes in many forms. Val magazine lacks diversity and different perspectives of youth culture, only talking about fashion, boys, and keeping up with trends. And when Daria suggested that she write about something that would actually help teen girls, Val reacted as if somebody got shot. And of course, Daria could care less about this article that Val wrote, because Daria doesn't give a damn that people think she's a bummer. At least post the Misery Chick episode. Especially since Daria wrote an equally slanderous paper on Val for Mr. O'Neill about spending a day with an egomaniacal teen magazine editor doing the work of the devil.
Hey, I'm jiggy with it.
Again, this episode was a parody of someone named Jane Pratt, who is the creator and editor of Jane magazine in the 90s. Now, from the interviews that I watched, Jane Pratt didn't seem as perky and disingenuous as Val, but there is something to be said about someone dedicating their life's work to keeping their ear to the streets about what teens get up to, especially when it comes to profit. Now, I'm not accusing Jane Pratt of anything, and she definitely seemed like she was more collaborative with actually getting teens' perspectives and incorporating them in her material than Val in this show. But I don't know that lady, who's to say? I'm also not really aware of the 90s, so if you remember Jane magazine, I would love to know your perspective. But of course, I always leave you guys with some closing questions. Do you think that teen culture is accurately represented in mainstream media, or is it often exaggerated or out of touch? And times have definitely changed. Do you think that magazines or media outlets still have the same influence on youth culture today as they did in the 90s and early 2000s, or has social media completely taken over? Let me know in the comments. Anyway, I hope you all enjoyed this video. If you would like to keep up with me outside of YouTube, you can follow me on TikTok, Instagram, subscribe to my Sims channel, please. And my second channel, if you would like, don't post on there often. You can check out my Patreon, where I try to keep you guys updated on what's going on. All that information is in the description box down below, along with any music that I use in my videos. And if you made it to the end, please be sure to give this video a big thumbs up. Make sure you subscribe to the channel, and make sure you hit the notification bell to stay up to date with posts and uploads from me. But for now, I hope you guys have a great rest of your week, and I will see you guys in the next one. Peace.